Hello, my name is Robb Hollifield, and I serve at a church called Cross Creek Church in Fountain, Colorado, and I am so blessed, so honored, so privileged to get to be here with you today, digitally, virtually, over the interwebs. What a wild year this year has been, right? I know that you all are just over it. Over talking about the coronavirus, over talking about COVID-19, because what this has done is it's rapidly changed how we look at ministry, how we practice ministry. And I know the temptation is often, from what I hear from other church leaders, what I hear at our church congregation in Fountain is, I can't wait for things to go back to normal. And while that is I think a valuable sentiment that things were just such a certain way before, even when COVID-19 goes away, I guarantee that things have been changed forever. Here's why. Because when it comes down to the gospel, when it comes down to the message of truth, that message of truth will never change. But culture and the environment around us changes rapidly. Here's the proof. Already right now, you are watching this conference maybe on your computer, maybe on your cellular telephone, maybe on your streaming television. And you could be at your desk, you could be at a conference room, you could be in your living room. Heck, you could actually be watching this session right now while you are sitting on the toilet. Now, as funny as that is, we know it's true. I love the theme of our conference, talking about the next chapter. Where do we go from here? And I was asked to give this talk in a TED Talk style manner. This isn't a sermon. This isn't some kind of teaching. This is a TED Talk style, which is hopefully having a nice look at information that is going to be valuable to change the way that we look at the world. And I was curious about, what does TED actually stand for? I don't know if you've ever asked that question, but I went to the Google machine and I Googled TED Talk definition, and actually so profoundly what TED stands for is, I think, what we can look at today and what will be valuable for us to really take hold of in this next chapter. So let's start with T. T in TED stands for technology. Now, I know that that can be a cuss word in some manners, in some areas, right? Because honestly, if we're being honest, if we're being faithful to our understanding of God in our Western church, even outside of our Western church, we know that God does not need our technology. He doesn't need our stages. He doesn't need our lights. He doesn't need our haze. He doesn't need our soundboards. He doesn't need our microphones. But the beauty is, we have this technology that we can use to maybe potentially reach more individuals for the gospel. Now, we can look at this two ways. The first way, I think that we can really embrace technology to pursue individuals in our community in the next chapter is, number one, to have a healthy presence on social media. Yikes. I don't know if you've been on social media recently, but the divisiveness that is there is heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking, not just for the lost world to be so divisive when it comes to political things, social justice things, or just hurting individuals things. Just when it comes down to anything, there's so much divisiveness in the lost world. But when you look at your social media, you can see that your church congregation members are so divided on these same topics. And so understanding that our churches to have a healthy presence on social media will be valuable because your church congregation members need to see you on social platforms. Why? It's because they are going to be there whether you are there or not. So why not be involved just right there, giving some words of truth on a consistent basis, consistently communicating events that are happening in the church, or talk about like further steps towards understanding what the message was on Sunday. Use your social media as a platform to be able to get more information, more content out to those in your church congregation. And in the same way, when your church congregation sees that, they will be able to share that to all of their friends, whether they are lost or whether they are found. And so this is a great first step when it comes to using technology in the next chapter. Number 2. I think technology is so important as we are using in our churches because there are gifted individuals in your church right now that would thrive in an area of creativity when it comes to how they can use technology in worship services, in a social media platform, or ABC, you name it. One of the most awesome things that I've gotten to see in the ministry that I serve is God raise up individuals through the time of COVID and even before this for those that just love creativity, love creating something. I think this is the beautiful side of humanity, being created in the image of God. We were created to be creators. In this platform of technology, whether it is lights, whether it is developing some special form or fashion to do your church service differently from here and there and now and again, it is going to give individuals in your church congregation the opportunity to serve with excellence. Now, not worshiping excellence, but using excellence to worship. Very, very valuable. That's T. T, technology. The E in TED stands for entertainment. Now, again, this is another one of those words that where if you have let entertainment seep into the way that you do church, there is a very much a consumer-minded mentality that you are presenting to your church congregation. But I want to tell you this. The word entertainment, I think, has been hijacked to mean consumer-driven thought, when in reality, the definition of entertainment is to engage or keep one's attention. Now, as we are developing our online services for those that are maybe not coming back to church just yet, or those that are already checking out your church service before they ever check out your church now through social media, through your website, I think it's very valuable to understand this mentality of how to keep individuals engaged. And I'm sure that you've learned this if you are a preacher, a pastor, a teacher. You know that individuals learn in different capacities when it comes to visual learning, auto learning, or sensory touch learning. Now, we can't touch each other, just know that. But there are other ways to be able to entertain, to be able to keep engagement, whether it's how you do your church services, or the ways that you preach in certain capacities or areas by using visual aids, media, lights, different things like that. Or if you're recording your church services that individuals will be watching before they ever come to your church, using that to your advantage, I think is a very valuable thing to do in the next chapter as well. So, T, technology. E, entertainment. And D, the D in TED is design. And what we see right out of Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, it says, "For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." The incredible understanding that we have in design is that we were designed for good work. And so understanding this, understanding that there might be some things that are different in this next chapter, it is okay. God was not taken off guard by COVID-19. The coronavirus did not surprise God, but in that, God has ways for us to grow as the church, as the life raft for those lost souls that are in our communities. And so as we lean into our design of being creative individuals, as we lean into our design of understanding the heartbeat of the different communities that we serve, as we lean into the design of how God has gifted us as communicators, as leaders, as encouragers, we can be creators like our God created us. Here's a good question for you to ask. What gets in the way of creativity in your church? Creativity is something that can encourage your workers. Creativity is something that can really get individuals very excited for just the new and changing things that are happening in your church. So what is it that gets in the way of creativity? Is it a stern understanding of tradition and only like bowing to tradition? Are there sacred cows that you have in your church that you don't want to get rid of just because it's how we've always done it? Or is there individuals that are maybe just not serving within their gifting if they're in an area of creative ministry? Just some easy questions to be able to ask and evaluate where you are as a ministry. And remember, Romans 8:8 says, those who are in the flesh cannot please God. Every single one of these steps can be easily flesh-driven if we're not focused on faithfulness. But if we are focused on faithfulness, our faithfulness will lead to fruitfulness.